By applying these 5 principles, scope, timeline, risk management, deliverables, and measurable outcomes, we can approach our dialysis projects with clarity and structure. And importantly, we don't need to wait for the certification to use them. They are tools we can apply right now to improve safety, efficiency, and ultimately patient outcomes. Now let's see how these principles translate into the real projects within clinical care and patient outcomes. One example is vascular access optimization project. Here the aim is to shorten the referral to procedure process for fistula or graft creation. Early intervention and strong surveillance protocols like ultrasound mapping can reduce complications and protect patients' lifeline. Second is a dialysis adequacy improvement project. This focuses on ensuring our patients consistently meet adequacy targets such as KT/V or URR. Standardizing monitors and feedback loops keeps us accountable and helps patients achieve effective dialysis. Third is a home dialysis uptake project. Home dialysis improves quality of life, but uptake can be challenged. By offering structured training programs and telehealth support, we can help more patients feel safe and confident managing their treatment at home. And finally, an anemia mineral bone disorder management project. Here the focus is on adherence to IV iron, ESAs, phosphate binders, and vitamin D protocols. Introducing digital dashboards for real-time monitoring ensures faster interventions and more consistent outcomes. Together, these clinical projects demonstrate how project management principles can directly lead to better patient outcomes. Beyond clinical care, we also need to strengthen service directory and quality improvement. These projects make our service safer, more efficient, and more sustainable. For example, a dialysis water quality safety project. This involves aligning with ISO standards, using digital monitoring for bacteriology and endotoxin results, and ensuring contingency plan are ready for any water treatment downtime. Another is patient safety and incident reduction project. By standardizing protocols for machine alarms, air embolism, and staff simulation, we can reduce preventable risk and protect patients more effectively. Third is a staff training and competency development. Structured preceptor programs, mentorship, and e-learning modules can help new graduates and existing staff stay aligned with best practice, while also meeting CPD requirements. And finally, sustainable and resource optimization project. Reducing consumable waste, improving procurement efficiency, and exploring energy-saving strategies not only saves cost, but also make dialysis service more environmentally responsible. As we move forward, it's important to remember that before innovation can truly thrive, quality, safety must remain our foundation. Though CAPM-aligned initiatives like infection control improvement, medication safety, and dialysis machine risk mitigation, we can strengthen the very system that safeguard our patients. By applying structured project management, whether it's through bundle care protocols, double-check workflows, or proactive risk analysis, we ensure that excellence begins at the front line of patient care. The next set of CAPM-aligned project focuses on operational and patient-centered dimensions. Under water treatment and technical operations, our goal is to ensure the reliability and safety of the system that support our every dialysis session. Projects such as water quality assurance aim to strengthen compliance monitoring and chemical optimization, while RO plant and carbon filter optimization project focuses on proactive maintenance and performance evaluation. Additionally, the salt bag supply chain enhances logistic sustainability by building resilient supply system and maintain adequate buffer stocks. Under workforce and process improvement, we recognize that our greatest asset is our people. The staff competency and learning program reinforces training and consistency across the unit, ensuring every clinician, nurses, and physiologists operates with shared excellence. The dialysis workflow optimization project, streamlining coordination, minimizes inefficiencies, and enhances patient flow. And CPD and knowledge sharing project fosters collaboration through continuous professional development and cross-disciplinary learning. And finally, let's look forward to research and innovation. Here the focus is on building a framework for multi-center renal studies. By applying CAPM principles, we can align stakeholders, manage logistics, and ensure that when opportunities for research come, our unit is ready to participate effectively. Second is an AI and predictive analytic project. Imagine being able to predict hospitalization, fluid overload, or vascular access failure before they happen. By integrating predictive model into patient dashboard, we can shift from reactive care to proactive prevention, help patients stay safer home, and reducing admissions. And third, sustainability in dialysis project. As we all know, dialysis is resource intensive. By reducing dialysis wastage, cutting energy use in our units, and exploring eco-friendly disposal methods for dialysis and consumables, we can make our service more environmentally sustainable while still maintaining the highest standards of care. The conclusions. Together, this project represents a full circle approach. Next slide. Together, these projects represent a full circle approach from infrastructure and safety innovation and empowerment, all underpinned by structured project management. As we conclude, let's remember the future of kidney care is innovative, collaborative, and patient-centered. CAPM gives us the framework to manage that future effectively. By bridging project management discipline into our daily practice, we accelerate innovation from research to bedside, strengthen collaboration across teams, and deliver truly transformative outcomes for our patients. So let's move forward, embracing excellence, innovation, and teamwork. We shape a stronger, smarter, and more compassionate future for renal care together. Thank you.
Thank you, Majid. I welcome Gayatri to present a token of appreciation, please. Gayatri will be giving you the gift.
Check.
Our next speaker brings a powerful and personal perspective, that is the voice of a patient. Landon has been on dialysis for nearly 5 years. His journey began in Brisbane, Australia, when he started on peritoneal dialysis and later transitioning to hemodialysis. After 2.5 years, he returned home to New Zealand to care for his parents. Landon often says he enjoys dialysis as it gives him 5 to 6 hours away from the world. He stays positive and active by playing golf. Please welcome Landon Waitova as he shares his story of my dialysis journey.
Good afternoon, my name is Landon. I'm obviously from the Hawke's Bay, and this is my journey through dialysis. Today's actually my 5th anniversary of doing hemodialysis. Maybe a bit of cake after would be good. But it started basically about 6.5 years ago with diabetes. I wasn't the best diabetic person in the world. I found out at 24 that I had diabetes. Didn't listen probably for another 10 years. And I went in and the diabetic nurse said to me, "Oh, Landon, you've got a blood sugar reading of about 35 plus. You're actually lucky to probably be alive." With that, within 6 months, we set a plan and I brought it down to 11. And before I knew it, I was down to about 5 or 6, which was really good at that stage. I ended up having my second toe amputated on my left foot due to an ulcer, which probably kind of shook me up a bit more. With that, I spent about a month and a half actually in Logan Hospital. And with that, I basically got transferred from infectious disease over to the kidney unit. I started my kidney thing with the permacath in the chest, and I also went to PD after that. That didn't last that long. They don't keep you on that forever over there. I started PD, and PD was interesting for me because I learnt that really quick how to do that, to the point I started doing dialysis in my car while I was driving. It was easiest because it took me about an hour and a half to get home. So I thought, oh well, I might as well try and catch up by doing some of this while I drive. I was putting the bags out the sunroof, and the police officer wasn't actually that happy about that, but he kind of got it in the end. I finished PD not that long into it. It burst, and for every man that says he wants big balls, well, I beg to differ, because having a litre of liquid in your scrotum is not the best feeling, and anyone who actually likes that, well, good for you. And then all of a sudden, hemo come along for me, and it was good. It was good. I actually have never complained about having this, put it this way, if I didn't have it, I'll be 6 feet under. And then you can complain whatever you like down there. Living in Australia was funny because I never really learnt anything about dialysis. I basically turned up, they chucked the needles in. And 5 hours later they said, oh, well, we'll see you in a couple of days. Yeah, cool, great. We had a great team over there, and it's probably one of the luxuries that they actually have. They have a lot more staff to what, well, when I say what New Zealand has, I can only talk for the Hawke's Bay. We've got great staff down there, but, in the units over there, they've probably got 24 patients. They've got at least 12 staff. So it's a real added bonus over there. Before coming home, I got put on the transplant list over there, and my doctor worked really hard to get me onto that. I worked really hard. I dropped down from about 150 plus kilos, down to about 115. Obviously, coming home makes you put on more weight because the food's better here. And was it the best move to do at the time? Probably not, considering that quite a few of the guys that were on the same list as me had just come on have actually had transplants now. Australia obviously want to move things along, but my reason for returning was my only purpose, and that was my parents. My father was sick, my mother was struggling, so I returned home for that. To be honest, it probably was the best move I ever did. I've come home. We've got a great unit down in Hawke's Bay. Been there, 2.5 years, I think now. I've got onto that transplant list, but I have learnt so much more about what actually kidney disease actually is. For me, I had no idea what kidney disease was. I assumed it was just like the flu. Sooner or later, you just get better. You take medication, because when they give you 16 pills at the start, it was just like, oh, cool, this is okay, won't take long, I'll be back up and going again. Well, now I'm down to 4 pills and I actually feel better. The machine helps, obviously. One thing I don't like is people complaining. We've our little Monday, Wednesday, Friday group. Every time someone complains sitting in the waiting room, I tell them, oh, well, go across the road, go and complain to them. They'll listen to you all day long. It's the cemetery across the road from us. They won't care. You can say whatever you like to them. When you come in here, we show respect to the people that are trying to keep us alive. So I enjoy that part about our unit. We're a pretty good unit. We have the odd issues, like I'm sure every unit does. Like our team that are obviously here today, I owe them a lot because they've taught me a lot. Like even the filter in the machine, I didn't even know what that even did. But they've explained that to me, and I've enjoyed Cherie. He comes and sees me. We gas bag about things, and that's probably why I like the 5 hours, because I can gas bag for 5 hours. I don't see the point of sleeping in there. There's plenty of time to sleep later in life. You try and catch up on trying to learn a few things. For me, I appreciate everyone here today, because you guys are the ones that are keeping us alive. Without you guys, and regardless of what people say, we'd be 6 feet under. And so I appreciate every single one of you. I've appreciated coming today. I've learnt quite a bit today. I didn't understand anything about the water, but that's okay. But I appreciate being invited to this. I've appreciated being able to get up here and talk about my little journey. And I know my journey's not over yet. I hope to have the transplant one day, but if it doesn't happen, I'll get over that as well. You know, that 5 hours every day is really nice. I get away from the kids. I get away from my parents. I get away from my sisters. I get away from everyone at the golf club. And there's nothing anyone can do. They can't come and touch me in there. You know, I can gas bag with the nurses all day long. You know, so I just want to say thank you to Saju for inviting me to this. I want to thank you guys, especially for what you guys have done for me and everyone else doing this. It's not the easiest of journeys, I guess, but it could be a lot worse. So with that, I say thank you. Enjoy the rest of your guys' day. I know I will. And maybe I'll get up and talk again. Thank you.
Thank you, Landon, for sharing such an inspiring and heartfelt story. I invite Rajiv to present a gift for our speaker.
You guys are trying to kill us too. We're only allowed a litre a day.
Thank you. This is from our side.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I said that when I come down. If I fall over, there's plenty of medical staff around.
Our next presentation delves into a more technical yet vital aspect of dialysis, water quality and safety. Karen Prescott represents Swan Analyticals in New Zealand, a Swiss company renowned for manufacturing high-quality online water monitoring analysis. Karen has an extensive background in medical laboratory science and now promotes continuous monitoring of potable water, ultra-pure water, and steam in both municipal water and power industries, ensuring systems maintain the highest standard of dialysis, water purity, and patient safety. Please join me in welcoming Karen Prescott to present on chloramine and water, dialysis water.
Hi everyone. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about chloramines and dialysis water and the importance of taking note and monitoring chloramines, what they can do, and a few case studies along the way as well. So as you know, dialysis patients are directly exposed to large volumes of treated water. The treated water often comes from the water treatment plant, from the local council. We don't necessarily know what they are doing at the time, so it's important just to realize that sometimes it's all very much unknown for us. Water quality obviously is critical, and there are contaminants that can enter the bloodstream of the dialysis patients that we need to be very much aware of. Chloramines, mono, di, trichloramines are key chemical hazards for the dialysis patient. How do they form? Chloramines generally are chemical compounds formed by a combination of chlorine and ammonia. Ammonia is often also added at the water treatment plant to amend pH and to control pH. So chlorine and ammonia can combine to form chloramines. They must be carefully monitored and obviously removed from dialysis water to ensure patient safety. In dialysis, the dialysis membranes allow the water-soluble toxins to diffuse into the blood. So chloramines are oxidizing agents. This means that they cause oxidative stress on the red blood cells in particular. As you know, red blood cells carry hemoglobin and in turn carry oxygen around the body. So the clinical effects of hemolysis are things like anemia, nausea, chest pain. Now in New Zealand, there's a drinking water regulator called Taumata ROI that some of you may have heard of. They allow up to 2 milligrams of total chlorine per litre of drinking water currently. Dialysis water requires additional treatment. Filtration and RO generally are the two that take place in the RO room if there's a central RO unit. And this water must be tested before each shift. International guidelines stipulate a limit of 0.1 milligram of total chlorine per litre. And of course, generally in New Zealand, you test at the beginning of every shift to ensure that there's no breakthrough. So how is chloramine removed? Well, there's a few different methods. Carbon filtration is the primary barrier. Often there are 2 tanks, which have equal to or greater than 10 minutes of contact time. And then you've got the reverse osmosis process as well, which removes mainly contaminants, not necessarily chloramines very effectively. Mostly it's the carbon filters that remove the chloramines. Some dechlorination chemicals are used as a backup, but that's quite rare. So total chlorine generally is monitored between the carbon tanks 1 and 2. As I said, before each dialysis shift, that's a requirement. The best method to do this is the DPD or colorimetric method of testing. I know in New Zealand mostly you use a dipstick, which is a quite qualitative and objective method. If breakthrough occurs after the first carbon tank, one can test after the second carbon tank and then follow the hospital protocols from there. It's important to maintain and audit your testing logs and regularly keep up your compliance. Now, I'm just going to go through a few case studies. Of course, there's not a lot of case studies documented because often the breakthrough of chloramines is very mild, and so to record things like that is not always easy and it's not always monitored very well. But this case study occurred in America in 1987, and so in an outpatient dialysis center in Philadelphia, a newly modified water treatment system failed. Specifically, a carbon filter malfunctioned. Now, we don't know if they had an RO process happening at the same time. Possibly not in 1987, but as I said, the carbon filters are normally the primary barrier. As a result of this, patients were exposed to chloramine-contaminated dialysate solutions, and the outcomes of that was that 41 patients developed hemolytic anemia, and so severe that they each required a blood transfusion. Now, investigators found that the mortality among these dialysis patients increased during the 5 months following exposure compared to the prior year. So that was interesting to note. Then we've got another case in the UK, around about 96 to 98. And in this dialysis unit, they observed unexpected EPO, or erythropoietin resistance. So patients suddenly required higher doses to maintain their hemoglobin. Now, the investigations found that the dialysate chloramine increased from usually where it was less than 0.1 ppm, to about 0.25 to 0.3 ppm. This was linked to rising municipal water chloramine beginning in November 1996. And that's linked to what I was saying. We don't always know what the water treatment plant or the municipal plant is doing. Often when there's been storms, such as in Auckland or around the country recently, the water treatment plants do dose with much more chlorine than normal, and there can be slugs of chlorine coming through the plant. The outcomes in this particular case was that patients had a 23% increase in methemoglobinemia and a 21% drop in haptoglobin. And this was consistent with hemolysis. And after installing the larger carbon columns, which they decided to do, the chloramine levels dropped back to normal levels below 0.1 ppm, and the mean hemoglobin of the patients rose by about 18%. And erythropoietin dosage requirements decreased by 25%. So that's quite significant too. We have another case study then in 2000 in Brazil. In this situation, a chronic hemodialysis facility, in around September 2000, 16 patients experienced hemolytic reactions due to chlorine and chloramine contamination. The contamination arose despite the use of RO systems. The measured concentrations exceeded the safe thresholds. They were around about or more than 0.5. Patients exposed during the incident were over 2.5 times more likely to suffer hemolytic reactions than those in the days prior. So all of this comes back to the chloramines. Now, more recently, locally, we had a real-life situation which we were involved in, and this was in New South Wales, Australia, 2023. So over there, they've got nurse unit managers, or NUMs as they like to call them, who look after the dialysis units. And a NUM of a ward was experiencing a high total chlorine readings between carbon 1 and 2. And she wasn't using a dipstick, she was using a Swan handheld chematest, which is using the DPD colorimetric method, but a portable one. Now, after reporting the issue to the RO contractor, the NUM was informed that the instruments must be faulty. So then the NUM contacted us. We provided a second handheld unit, which confirmed that the total chlorine level was indeed high. Following this, we decided to conduct a trial of the CODES TC analyzer, which is the continuous monitoring analyzer that is on my banner outside there. It provides continuous monitoring of total chlorine levels, and the analyzer recorded samples every 10 minutes, creating an indisputable data log that the levels were high. Now, armed with this evidence, the NUM approached the contractor, who promptly replaced the exhausted carbon filters. They weren't expired, but they were exhausted, so it's important to realize that that can happen. Impressed by the accuracy and reliability of the CODES TC, they decided to purchase the device. Since then, there's been additional CODES TC analyzers added to the renal wards in that area. What do we learn from these case studies? Well, these real-life cases illustrate how the breakthrough chloramine contamination, even if not initially obvious, can severely compromise dialysis patient safety. Now, if you think about it, your average dialysis patient probably has blood tests every 3 months or so. So sometimes what's happening to them, whether it be slight anemia and things like that, are very mild effects, chronic and subtle effects, diminished response to erythropoietin, low-grade hemolysis, not always very obvious. Sometimes there are acute effects such as massive hemolysis or transfusion required. So just something to bear in mind. What can we do about it? Like I said, SWAN can provide this continuous monitoring of total chlorine. It's an analyzer that sits between carbon 1 and 2 and logs every 10 minutes a total chlorine result. There is high accuracy because it's an analytical instrument. You've got your cloud-based data, clear insights and early warnings, so results can alarm on your portable phone, your PC, whatever you want. It provides graphs like this, so graphic evidence of what is happening. As you can see there, the vertical lines are at the beginning of every shift, and so this is real data, and you can see that sometimes the chloramines do go above that red line, which is the 0.1 critical level, and we don't always know what's happening in between shifts and during shifts. So it's just important to bear that in mind. Tests every 10 minutes, and that's all. Any questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. No questions? Thank you.
Check. Check.
Any questions? Prabha.
Hi, thank you. Can you go back to the graph, please? The graph. Yeah.
Yes.
There, on the date of 20th April, you can see that carbon 1 and carbon 2 has spiked the levels. Mm-hmm. How is that possible for carbon 2 to spike on the same day at the same point when it has been periodically checked for every 10 minutes?
This is because, like I was saying, sometimes there's slugs of chlorine going through, not necessarily continuous. I'm talking now from the water treatment plant. There's slugs that sometimes go through. So what's happened here is on the first day, it's after carbon 1, it's gone up, but after carbon 2, it's been okay. And then on the second day, after carbon 1, it's gone up, and after carbon 2, it's gone up as well. But I understand what you're saying, why the spikes. Is that your question?
Yes.
The spikes.
My specific question is with carbon 2.
Yes.
Which shouldn't have that spike because of carbon 1 is there taking the whole lot in the first.
Sometimes, I understand what you're saying. So sometimes what happens is the carbon 1, there's so much chlorine that it's exhausted, and there's breakthrough through the carbon 2 as well. So in the first instance, what you probably have seen is that the carbon 1's been exhausted. It's allowed some chloramine through, but the carbon 2 has caught that extra chloramine. However, the second day, because that carbon 2 was catching that chloramine, it's allowing more through the second day when there's that slug. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay.
One more question. With the device, you said every 10 minutes it can check. Is
Yes.
there something you can adjust the timeline of that periodic?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
How long?
10 minutes is the most frequent timing. It can go up to, I think from memory, every 2 hours or so.
Okay.
So yes, you can choose whatever frequency you like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for the presentation. I now welcome Srini to present a gift for our speaker. Our next topic takes us into the exciting intersection of technology and renal medicine, exploring how AI can shape the future of dialysis care. Akhil Ramesan is a clinical renal physiologist with over 12 years of international experience across India, Africa, the Middle East, and New Zealand. He holds a Master of Science in dialysis therapy and brings deep expertise in clinical care, administration, and service management, who is currently working at Hawke's Bay. Please welcome Akhil as he presents on the scope of AI in dialysis.
Hi everyone, I am Akhil, one of the clinical renal physiologists from Hawke's Bay DHP. Today we will be sharing an overview of how artificial intelligence is being applied in hemodialysis. We won't go too much into details. It should be an outline to just understand its scope and the potential. So going to the presentation. Understanding the scope. So, as we all know that hemodialysis generate massive real-time clinical data and mission data. This data is produced when actually the dialysis therapy is going on, and endless number of data is generated on each dialysis session. And this data is actually used by the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence applies this data to optimize treatment precision, predict complication, and personalize the patient care. Finally, it will lead to the predictive analytics to automated monitoring. This is happening through the algorithms and the machine learning. Then, why AI in hemodialysis? The answer is so simple. It's a transformative role of artificial intelligence in improving the accuracy, safety, and personalization of hemodialysis therapy. I repeat the term personalization because personalization means personalization of the dialysis prescription, which is the empowerment of the renal technology. Coming to the current challenges that we face in hemodialysis, variability of hemodialysis adequacy. Currently, what we are following is the online or offline KTORV and the URR, which has its own limitations. Patient-specific intradialytic complication like intradialytic hypotension, need for real-time monitoring and decision support. Altogether, what we required is a tailored treatment strategies for each and every section of hemodialysis. Then coming to the role of AI in hemodialysis, the most important one is the predictive modeling in terms of treatment, the complication during hemodialysis. Then coming the machine learning for dialysis adequacy optimization, intelligent alarm management in dialysis machine, personalization of dialysis prescriptions, which contain various parameters, predictive maintenance of hemodialysis machine by AI forecast actually. Then coming to the AI treatment optimization. In this, the dynamic adjustment of ultrafiltration rate, that is called closed loop ultrafiltration. In terms of closed loop ultrafiltration rate is real time, which vary according to the patient blood pressure, blood volume, blood viscosity, which change during 4 hours of hemodialysis. Then machine learning based on the KT/V predictions, improved vascular access monitoring. When the real-time monitoring happens, as we know that the complication like stenosis, thrombosis, which can be early detected. Then adaptive dialysis prescription tailored to the patient profiles. Currently, in terms of AI, the Fresenius and Baxter AI-enabled dialysis system studies are going on. The current project which is running is Fresenius Apollo cloud-based dialysis project, which is happening across 40 countries. Around 350 patient treatment parameters is analyzed. As we know that during hemodialysis, we monitor only few parameters. 540,000 dialysis patients, 140 million dialysis treatment data is collected. and more than 34 million laboratory assessment is collected in this case. This is the database Fresenius is creating for a AI-based implementation in the latest version of their missions. Then coming to the research on the intradialytic hypotension on the prediction models which is available in the web. Coming to the benefits of AI in hemodialysis, first one is the increase the patient safety, reduced adverse events, optimized dialysis efficacy, and enhanced personalized care. Coming to the challenges come with the data itself. The quality of data always matters. If the data quality is compromised, then the AI has its own complication in terms of therapy. Data quality, data availability, data privacy, and data security. Then the high cost of AI integration, ethical issues, regulatory barriers, and integration of the AI in the existing machine and the electronic medical record data, presently what we are using. Then none of this has been validated in any of the centers all over the world. That is the clinical validation. Coming to the conclusion, AI in hemodialysis means implementation of AI can make it three things. One, predict, second, prevent, and then personalize. AI can predict what is going to happen, it can prevent the complication, and it can personalize the dialysis prescription. That's the three key words that you can take home. That is shaping the future of renal technology through a artificial intelligence. Still in the research phase, and it's just an outline. We are touching the various facts of AI. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions?
Hope you all enjoy. We now turn our attention to the staff well-being, a vital pillar of our high-performing health system. Our next speaker, Dr. Joe Sinclair, is an anesthetist at Counties Manukau and Health New Zealand's chief well-being officer. Throughout her career, Dr. Joe has been a passionate advocate for well-being of doctors and more recently, the wider healthcare force. Her work focuses on addressing systemic issues that contributes to workplace stress, and she collaborates closely with colleagues in the people and culture team to foster a culture where healthcare workers can truly thrive. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Joe Sinclair.
you. Clicker here, this one. Yeah, awesome. Hi, everyone. Hi. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. So my name's Jo Sinclair. I'm an anaesthetist at County still, but most of the week I am Health New Zealand's Chief Wellbeing Officer, which is a bit of a new thing for Health New Zealand, but focused on starting to make some changes to how we view staff wellbeing as an organisation and try and start some changes towards being a better employer, I guess. So I'm going to talk to you today about building systems for sustainable wellbeing at work, and I guess the thing to flag up front is that this is a long journey that we're starting, and so these are some ideas for getting started, but none of these things are quick fixes trying to fix some of the systems issues in healthcare, but sharing some ideas for how to get started. So also just wanted to start by acknowledging that it's been quite a challenging road for at least the last few years in healthcare. We've had the pandemic, there's been natural disasters around the country, and then we had the change to Health New Zealand, and it's certainly been, I've been sort of in this role in some form for the last 3 years, and it's certainly been a really challenging environment to try and make change in, because we keep the road keeps shifting. There keeps being new bends in the roads and new ways of doing things. And I think that's really tested the resilience of our healthcare workers, but also the resilience of our organisation as well across the country. And I think, this picture we've been showing in talks that we've done around the country for a while, and it's probably pretty generous depiction because it's still, a road that's got a direction, and it looks like a nice road. But actually, sometimes we feel like this is kind of the road that we're travelling on in health at the moment. So we do sometimes face periods of a lot of workplace stress. And when we think about what is burnout is unmitigated workplace stresses. And we certainly, when we see that over a long period of time, we start to see increasing rates of cynicism in our workforce, more and more people becoming exhausted. And then we also start to see that people don't feel like they're as effective at their jobs as they used to be. So all features of burnout. And studies suggest that as many as 50% of us might be affected by this. So there's a lot of effects on healthcare, on our workforce and our organisations of people experiencing burnout. So there's effects that happen to the individuals. So we can experience things like insomnia, difficulty sleeping, chest pain, anxiety, depression, all those kind of things in terms of physical effects of burnout. It has an effect on our patients as well. So we know that burnt out healthcare workers are not as effective and not as good at looking after patients, so patient safety kind of suffers as a result. But also there's studies showing things like patient compliance with a treatment plan is not as good if it's being delivered to them by a burnt out healthcare worker. So even patient compliance can be affected as well. It has impact on our healthcare system, so we see people dropping their hours, leaving earlier than they might have done, and productivity goes down, so it's got a kind of impact on the financial bottom line, I guess. And then also it erodes the trust of our communities and our healthcare organisations if we allow this to kind of continue without doing anything to change it. And there's an overwhelming amount of evidence about this link between patient safety and healthcare worker wellbeing. Over COVID, there was an explosion in research into staff wellbeing because that became, at the forefront of everyone's minds in the pandemic. And so there really is just an absolute massive amount of evidence now that we should be focusing on staff wellbeing as part of patient-centred care because it's so intricately linked with patient safety. But there are other reasons that we should be investing in the health and wellbeing of our staff. So, we are expected to deliver on health targets at the moment. That's a real focus of our organisation. But we know that at the heart of that is how are our workforce feeling, and how much have they got left in the tank to actually improve productivity and meet those health targets. So that's very tied into their wellbeing at work. It's good for business. Some of the things that I've described there, it impacts on the financial bottom line as well. It's also the law, so there's health and safety legislation that talks about the responsibility of our organisations for our health and safety at work, and now there's an increasing focus on psychosocial risk as part of that as well, which is where workplace wellbeing and health and safety kind of intersect. Workers are demanding it, so the generations that are training now to be our future healthcare workforce, they are much more focused on their wellbeing, their work-life balance than, for example, my generation training were. So they don't buy into that sort of that idea of this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we should keep doing it, and they want change. So we need to be prepared for that as an organisation as well. My role has got wellbeing in the title, but what do we mean by wellbeing, or what do I mean by it in my role? So workplace wellbeing is how we feel at work and how we feel about work, and this definition comes out of a huge piece of global research that's been done through a job-seeking platform called Indeed. And they have had something like 20 million people now filling out their wellbeing survey on that platform, and then they're able to publish the results against all the companies that are seeking employees, I should say. So they've been able to identify what some of those drivers of workplace wellbeing are. They've also been able to link the how workplace wellbeing published data drives job seeker behaviour and recruitment and retention, and also performance of those companies. So they've been able to really demonstrate that link between how your staff are feeling about working in your company and how your company performs and your ability to hold on to staff. So some of those drivers, there's a whole list there of drivers of workplace wellbeing, and the top one for any one of you in this room, if I asked you to identify that, might be different to the person sitting next to you, but they all impact us in some way, shape or form. And in healthcare, it tends to be inclusion and belonging is really important because we work in teams all the time. Some people will really value appreciation, being shown how much they're appreciated. Others will be more concerned about earning an income and earning the same in their hospital as others in other hospitals earn. Those kind of things show up in different ways. And we know leadership has a really big impact as well on our wellbeing at work. So they're all the drivers that determine how we feel at work and how we feel about work, so about the place that we work in, about the type of work that we do. And then there's also this research out of the King's Fund in the UK. Professor Michael West is quite an expert on this field, and he has written a book about compassionate leadership in healthcare. But he's done this study in multiple parts of the healthcare workforce and always comes up with the same core workplace needs of autonomy, belonging and contribution. So autonomy is about having some agency in your workplace, so feeling like you've got some control over what you're doing and you have the ability to kind of influence the way things are done. Belonging, I've sort of mentioned that idea of we work in teams, we have communities within the hospital or the hospital community itself, particularly in the smaller hospitals, and that's how much we pay attention to creating that sense of belonging has a real impact on how people feel about our workplaces. And then contribution's kind of almost built into our job. We are caring for people in some of the most difficult times of their lives. But there are other ways that we make contributions in our workplace as well, in leadership roles and things like that. Oh. Fail. Yeah, go forward one for me. Thanks. Cheers. So this is a model that I'm using quite a lot in talking to teams around the country about what workplace wellbeing is and how we might be able to use a model like this to think about ways that we can change things in our workplaces. So this comes out of Stanford. This is their model of occupational wellbeing. And they do have individual factors in there, but that's more around how do we try and limit the impact of work on individuals in the workplace in terms of things like critical incidents and the stress that can come from those, violence and aggression in the workplace, fatiguing work duties, those kind of things. And if we were looking at what we would do as an organisation, we'd probably spend about 20% of our resources on looking at what we do for individuals, but actually we need to be spending about 80% of our time and energy looking at those more systems level things that are drivers of wellbeing at work. And those are divided into two categories here. So one's around the culture of wellbeing in our workplace, and that's thinking about the impact of leaders. So how do we choose our leaders? How do we support them and train them to be good leaders? Teamwork again comes up again, and psychological safety is really important for how we build teams and how well our leaders are equipped for making good decisions and supporting our teams. And then the other part is workplace efficiencies, which is all those kind of pebbles in your shoes at work every day, the things that drive you a bit nuts, and it might be something to do with the IT system, it might be a documentation or paperwork thing, it might be patient flow through parts of the hospital. Those are all things that we commonly hear from people when they talk about why they've had a bad day at work. Middle more often that starts with talking about the parking and how challenging it was to get a park today, and then it kind of flows on from there. So thinking about where we can start with this, I think given everything that's kind of going on nationally, politically, in the world, those kind of things, I do find that there's a lot of people that are spending a lot of time out in what we might call the circle of concern, which is thinking about, political decisions and funding cycles and all those things that are kind of outside of our control. And when we work in systems where the politicians are very close to the operations of the organisation as they are in health, we can end up in situations really easily where we feel a bit helpless and a bit disempowered. But having agency means focusing our energies on the things that we can control and also the things that we can influence. And so we can control things like our own actions and behaviours, how we make decisions, how we set our boundaries, how we manage our time and how we improve the work that we do as an individual every day. And then we can influence things like team morale, team motivation, well-being of our team, patient experience, and the development of skills for our team members, relationships with other staff, and relationships between teams as well. We can't control the demand on our services, we can't control workforce shortages, funding cycles, political decisions, all those kind of things. So it's kind of that idea of trying to park those things that suck a lot of energy out of us, but we don't actually have the power to change those things, and shifting our focus back on things that we can actually control, and that gives us a sense of agency, which is really, really important, that autonomy piece that I mentioned before. And we can also look at this idea in thinking about what are the things that we are doing as a team that might be holding up some of those big systems problems and keeping them going. So that might be, our mental models, how we think about things within our team that maybe is holding us stuck in those kind of big systems problems. It might be some of the policies and practices that we use, and it might be the way that we connect with each other and relate to each other. I'll skip over that one. So basically 2 pyramids in a row there, but essentially this idea of, you might have heard of Maslow's hierarchy, which was that slide there. So that's about thinking about the layers of well-being or achievement or contribution in your workplace, and thinking about the need to attend to your basic needs first. So this one was developed in the pandemic, this version of it was developed in the pandemic, just acknowledging that if we're not attending to our staff's basic needs in the workplace, in that time it was food and water and sleep and PPE, it was probably the next one up in safety. But if you're not attending to those things, you're not going to get to the point where people have any sense of belonging, self-esteem, contribution, those kind of things in the workplace. And again, coming back to that idea of circles of control and thinking about what you can actually influence, sometimes you can have an impact on your own well-being or the well-being of your teams just by bringing it back to that really basic level of are we getting our basic needs met? Because if you go straight for, right, how are we going to improve everyone's contribution, but they're stuck down in, I can't get a park today, or, we haven't even got, access to a break once a day or something like that, then you're not going to be able to get up to those kind of higher levels. So ensuring that basic needs are addressed first, before you can try and address some of those big picture things. So thinking about that Stanford model where we had the three pieces, the individuals, the culture and the workplace efficiencies, I'm just going to talk through those as three different aspects. If you think of that as like a three-legged stool, you've kind of got to always be thinking about something in each of those areas. So in terms of team culture, this is a picture from a colleague of mine who works in the emergency department in Tauranga. They just have Fun Scrubs Friday. So these are the nurses in the emergency department in their very colourful fun scrubs that they wear every Friday. And it's just something that they can, it brings a bit of fun to the day. They can talk about where they got their scrubs from and what they like about each other's scrubs and things, but just brings a bit of colour into the department. I mentioned Belonging before, so this is a really good book that I recommend by Owen Eastwood, who's a New Zealander, lives in the UK now, but he's been a high-performance coach in sports and businesses for quite some time, and he talks about the importance of creating belonging with within your team, thinking about what's the story of our team, how do we want to be seen by other people in the organisation, how do we purposefully connect as a team, when new people join our team, how do we make them feel like they're part of the team and tell them what it means to be part of our team and make them feel like they belong. The other thing I really liked in his book is talks about the Māori concept of whakapapa and talks about it as like you're standing in a long line of people and this is your time in the sun, and those people are the people that have come before you that maybe trained you in the job that you're doing now, and then ahead of you in the line, stretching out in front of you, are all the people that are coming after us. And I mentioned at the beginning that this idea of changing Health New Zealand and the way that we think about our staff is a long journey, it's an intergenerational journey, and I really like that idea of whakapapa, that this is our time in the sun, this is our time looking after the healthcare system and our professions, and we are responsible for sort of how we leave it for the people that are coming after us. Also from my colleague in the emergency department in Tauranga, she puts up these posters with ideas for how you can show appreciation to each other and express gratitude to each other in your teams, just as little reminders around the place that there's different ways that people like to be appreciated. Some people like a hug, some people hate a hug, some people like gifts, some people like words. There's all sorts of different ways to do things. And also to think about what's your emotional wake. So that's that idea of, you can think of people when they walk in the room, they lift the mood and they bring a bit of energy to the room. You can think of other people when they come into your team, it's like, oh, am I working with them again today? And they're like, it's like Elsa the Ice Queen walking into the room. So think about that for yourself as well. What's my emotional wake? What's the vibe that I give when I walk into the room? And what could I do to change that so that I leave a positive wake behind me? And then the efficiencies of practice, I've kind of referred to that as pebbles in our shoes. So one way of thinking about that in a team is to have conversations regularly about, okay, what are the sort of things that are the pebbles in our shoes at the moment? What do we think then are, out of that list that we come up with, what are the top things that are really annoying? What are the things that we could maybe do something about? Some of those things will be out of your control as a team, but maybe there might be a small step that you could start to take towards that. And I think those are the conversations we need to be having across the organisation a lot more, because the people that are doing the work understand how we could be doing it better, and those are the people where the ideas for small changes that will make a real difference will come from. And then finally, if we're thinking about individuals, what you can do as an individual, I really like this idea of thinking about what's your rest ethic, because we do talk to healthcare workers a lot about having a good work ethic and working really hard, and how much are you giving to us, and how much more can you give to us, and that kind of thing. But if you think about a work ethic versus a rest ethic. So if you just keep breathing in and keep taking in breaths without ever taking an out breath, that's like having a work ethic without having a rest ethic. So we need that big breath out to engage our parasympathetic nervous system and to have a bit of calm and recovery time. And so when you're a performance athlete, rest and recovery really gets scheduled in just like your training does, because performance athletes recognise that recovery and rest time is just as important as their training time. And a lot of our staff work shift work, which feels a bit like being a performance athlete sometimes, particularly night shifts and things. And so being really mindful about what are you doing to actually rest and recover after your busy days at work. And there's lots of things that get in the way. We will often say, I'm really bad at this as well. I just don't have time for this. I'm so busy. If I stop now and go to the gym, I should be doing this project instead, or writing this report or whatever. But really the idea of giving ourselves permission that rest is not self-indulgent. It prepares us to give the best of ourselves to our work. So really important to think about that. And there's lots of different ways that we can rest. Everyone will have slightly different ways of doing things. So it's not just about sleep. We also, I'm quite an introvert, so for me sometimes rest is about getting away from other people and having some me time and just recharging my battery with alone time. Other people will be energised by spending time with people, and so they will need to schedule time to have dinners out with their friends and social activities that recharge their batteries and make them feel recovered from work. For some people it's exercise, for some people it's meditation. There's lots of different ways to do it, and it's just thinking about what is the way that you best recharge, and prioritising that in your week as well. So there's lots of things that big systems level things that need changing in our world at the moment. But the good news is that little tiny changes made progressively over time do add up and make changes. This is from the British cycling team, who were doing really badly, but then got a new coach who just looked at little 1% things that he could change about the bikes. He used to take their own mattresses and pillows on tour because they weren't sleeping very well, so he'd take each cyclist's preferred mattress and pillow so they got a good night's sleep. There's lots of little things like that, and eventually transformed them into Olympic gold winning cycling team. I think the other important thing about this idea is that you have to stop every now and then and look back and recognise what the impact of those little changes have been, because when we make a 1% change a little bit down the track, we tend to have just integrated that into normal life, and we've forgotten that used to be different. So stopping kind of to smell the roses along the way and pat yourself on the back for the changes that you have been able to make. As I said, this is a long-term intergenerational thinking idea, and this is a picture of rubber tree bridges from the north of India. So these are bridges that build over generations to make impassable waterways able to be crossed. So somebody will plant a rubber tree on each side of the waterway. They know that they're not going to be alive when that bridge is finished, but that their grandchildren or great-grandchildren will be able to pass this waterway once these bridges have grown, I guess, across the river. So it's that same idea that we need to start making some changes. They might not make the change that you want to see in what's left of your career in healthcare, but they will start to shift it in a better direction so that the generations that are coming after us will have a better experience of working in healthcare. Thank you very much for your attention. My email's there. If anyone's particularly interested in this sort of stuff, I'm always very happy to have a chat with anyone. Thank you.
Any questions for Joe?
Hi, thank you. First, I want to get corrected. Is my understanding correct? You said the ROI for 5:1. Is that right?
Say again, sorry?
The return of investment for every $1 spent, the expectation is $5. Is that right?
Oh, there's a massive range that they quote, but yeah, there is a return on investment for sure, but there's been different studies. It's really, like in New Zealand, I tried to do this, it's really hard to quantify because we don't have good data to put into that kind of analysis, but from international studies, yeah, it's anything from, I think the lowest I've seen is about $2 something, and then the highest I've seen is about $9 return on investment for every dollar invested in workplace wellbeing, yeah.
So if that is the ratio of expectation, then that is the fundamental reason. That's what I feel that, is that right? So that need to be narrowed down or slimmed down, isn't it? So that ROI that's 500% expectations.
Yeah, I think we really struggle in healthcare with that idea of investing to save, because you've got to invest some money to start some of these projects in order to realise that return on investment, and it takes a while with this kind of with staff wellbeing initiatives. And I think we're very linked, as I said, to the politicians and their political cycles and things. So I think that idea, like Ashley Bloomfield's mentioned recently, that a 10-year health plan that's kind of apolitical would be a great idea. I think that's that kind of territory. It's hard to get people to buy into that ROI idea when we're thinking only a few years and then we might change again.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers.
Joe, I saw the slides about the fun scrubs on Fridays. Just interested. Was it funded by the organization or was?
No, ha ha ha.
You wish.
Yeah, no, that was just everyone buying their own scrubs. Yeah, to wear into it, scrub tops to wear into work. There's quite a few companies that sell them now in all sorts of fun colours, but yeah, no, sadly, no. Some departments scattered around the place do have sort of social funds that they, staff put into that they use for things like that, but it's certainly not an organisational thing, no.
Hello. Hi.
Okay.
Is every employer has any legal obligation to look after the well-being of all employees?
Yeah, so the wording in New Zealand is not as strong as it is in Australia currently, but there is mention of an obligation to mitigate psychosocial risks. So that's, things that play into wellbeing for sure. That's written into the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, and I think the expectation is that we follow Australia, we lag Australia by a few years, so I think the health and safety world are kind of gearing up for us to have stronger legislation, so they're really focusing in on that. That's kind of a risk mitigation, harm reduction approach versus if I described workplace wellbeing, it would be kind of around taking a strengths-based approach and promoting the things that we do well and building on those and building, relationships and things. But it's a lever, it's absolutely a lever for getting people to pay attention to these things for sure. Yeah, and we're starting to build on that. I'll pull all the levers I can find, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, this question might be out of what you have said now. Because renal is like a very tough environment. We work quite in a high pressure environment.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any wellness survey in renal in counties or Middlemore or anything?
Not specifically. We have the wellbeing index that we use for measuring staff wellbeing. We've got that available nationally at the moment as well, but we've had it at counties for a few years. I should have looked at that before I came and spoke in front of some renal people, and I didn't.
No, because
so I haven't looked at it at counties for a while.
Because we have a large amount of staff that works in counties, and we actually goes through real pressure. Just want to know if is there any way we can do some survey so that you can get an idea of what we are going through?
Yeah, so right now you could do a push for using the wellbeing index, and we can pull out the information for just your staff.
So you will get it when we do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joe, one last question from me. As we are firefighting pretty much every day in terms of resources, the answer is, common theme is no, or we are exhausted. So in those circumstances, you still have a pressure to deliver.
Yeah.
We have a duty of care. So are we really compromising the word duty of care without properly acknowledging the lack of resources to undertake to resolve the pressure what we go through?
Yeah.
And is there any simple tools? I mean, you can say that we got courses in Coavitia and all those things. And 9 out of 10 times, the staff working on the floor, they may not get enough time to go through those courses. Yeah. That's a one big challenge. As a manager, I'm actually facing that.
Yeah.
So do we have anything readily available, like app or something like that, or any other resources?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can tell you all sorts of resources and things, but that's the fundamental issue, isn't it, is that when we're completely under the pump, we don't have the time to go and even look at those resources that we have. And yeah, I mean, I have personal views on what we should be doing. Again, I'm getting political again, but, I think that's a higher level discussion than the front line in terms of, how are we protecting our workforce? We get, it feels like we get things coming down on us from the politicians or what have you, and we just say, oh, yes, we'll do that. But when do we stop and say, actually, we can't? Our workforce is doing as much as it can do right now. It's sort of convenient not to look at the data, because if we had good data and we could see the impact it was having on our workforce, it might make it easier for us to push back. But if we don't know about it, then we can just pretend it's not happening. So there are lots of resources available. I mentioned the Wellbeing Index. We've got a whole bunch of them in the library in there, I've just released some training for stress first aid, which is a peer-to-peer support thing. So you can use it for self-care, but also for looking out for colleagues and having conversations with them. But again, you've got to have the time to be able to engage in those tools. And we've broken it down into little chunks so that people can just dip in and out of it and get through it slowly. But it's a real challenge. And I think that's, again, that long-term thing, and trying to get people engaged in things like the Wellbeing Index, so we have the data that we can then push up to the people at the top and just keep making that case that actually we can't just keep saying, yes, we'll do more, without considering the impact on our staff.
That's again to my next question. Being the national lead for staff well-being, how optimistic are you that current data, what we are pulling out from every services in general, that will impact future governments or authorities to invest more? How optimistic are you? Sorry to put you in hot spot.
No, that's all right. I mean, I think my honest answer is that I think that right now I don't see people in leadership roles that truly understand all these concepts, so that doesn't make me feel very optimistic. But I think there's a lot of people further down from the top that do get it and are starting to engage and starting to participate in these things and want to be part of the solution, and I think that will start to create some pressure on the top if they don't get it fundamentally right now. If the healthcare workforce keep engaging in these things and start to contribute and start to paint that picture, then I think we'll get there. But yeah, it's hard.
Thank you.
It is hard. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joe. It was really good. Thank you. Joe, we need you back.
Thank you, Joe, for the inspiring session on staff well-being. I kindly invite Balaji to...
He's already on the phone now.
Yes.
Balaji is Fast and Furious 9.
We now move from presentations to conversations, as it's time for our panel discussion on career progression for renal physiologists. Guiding the conversation today is Srini Sharma. Senior clinical renal physiologist and team leader for renal satellite units at Vaitamata District Health Board. Srini is passionate about supporting self-care and dialysis and strengthening the renal workforce, as he also serves as treasurer and board member of NZASRDP. Please give a warm welcome to Srini.
Thank you all. I would like to invite our guests one by one. These, the elite panelists don't need any particular introduction, but for the sake of our program, let me first introduce Frederick Doss. Frederick is a visionary leader in dialysis innovation and healthcare service delivery across Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific. We all know him as educator for the renal service in Auckland, but he's also a guest lecturer at the AUT. He's currently the clinical coordinator for the dialysis physiologist program and also a former NZASRDP chair. Our next panelist is Rajiv Kumar. There's no particular order, Rajiv. Rajiv is a senior clinical renal physiologist working in Auckland Hospital for more than 15 years. He is very much involved in the Apex Union. He's been a board member since 2018, and he has a very strong passion for career development and workforce leadership. Our third elite member is Kristen Schack. She's our Australian representative. She represents the Australian clinical workforce of renal physiologists. She's also the deputy chair of the New Zealand and Australian Society of Renal Dialysis Practice. She currently works as a guest lecturer at the James Cook University and also guest lecturing at the Swinburne University, where the dialysis physiologist course is being conducted. Our next guest is Balaji Jagannathan. We all know him. He's very passionate renal educator, and he's also the team leader for senior nurses and home therapies at Waitemata. He's a pioneer in starting up and running the renal physiology training program at MIT and AUT. He is a great problem solver and a former chair of the NZASRDP. Last but not the least is Shaiju Taikandi, our board chair. He is the renal service manager at Hawke's Bay Services or Hospital Services. He also overlooks the services of diabetes and endocrinology. He's our current board chair and very passionate about advancing the renal physiologist workforce across the whole of New Zealand. To kickstart the session, I would like to invite Frederick to give us a small overview of the CP or clinical physiologist profession.
This is working this way. Okay. Considering a lot of you are here, either qualified locally or moved from overseas at different period, we felt it's important to understand the history of the dialysis technician workforce, which it started as, and now it's clinical physiologists. I'll quickly run through some slides. We'll do it in the order of maybe every decade, from anything before 2000, and then every 10 years, how we have moved on. The dialysis technician workforce commenced from late 60s or early 70s in New Zealand, and they started off because initial days of dialysis treatment was predominantly done by doctors, and they required somebody who will be setting up the dialyzer, mixing up of solutions, etc. So they needed somebody in a technical clinical space. That's how the clinical technician role started, and they were reporting to a head of nephrology. That was the structure they had. So knowing the complexity of the early machines and mixing systems, this is how it started. And then in the year of 2000, it was come to a conclusion that the workforce need to be streamlined in some way or form in line with other health workforces. So the Dialysis Nephrology Society was established in the year 2000. With that society was meant for both nurses and technicians working in dialysis. But that carried on. One of the founding members in that year when it was started, who's happened to be here as well, Paul Santamaria. He has been in that field. He's one of the founding members, and he has been in the profession for 4 decades. We would like to acknowledge you, Paul, if you can come to stage. And let's give him a standing ovation. I'll ask Saiji to give a gift to him, and I want Paul to share a few words.
Hello there, everybody. I suppose quite a lot of you all don't know me very much. I came to New Zealand probably in the early 70s, and that time there were only 5 technicians working there. So what we are currently at the moment, can you see how much we have progressed? And I think all the hard work was done with Frederick as well as Balaji and few others, so I appreciate that. So give a big thanks for that. We used to do home dialysis those days. I think Middlemore wasn't there. Auckland was the first one to do home dialysis in center. And we used to cover up north as well as King Country and as well as far as New Plymouth. So the whole area was done by Auckland. Then later part, I think it was getting too much for us. So we passed it over to Middlemore. And that's how home dialysis started in Middlemore. So, I mean, looking back, I think we set up the board, and I was one of the first members of the New Zealand board with Adrian Budmouth and late David Lilly, as well as Dr. Collins. Then later pass over to Frederick, sort of thing. So great work to you guys. Thank you. That's all I can say. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. When we set up the dialysis board in the year 2000, the aim was to streamline the workforce who were working in nephrology, that is nurses in dialysis, both HD, PD, and nephrology practice, and alongside dialysis tech. But we spent, I think they've spent the first 5 years of picking up an exam from international level, which can streamline all the existing workforce, because at that time they had different training qualifications. So Bonnet was identified as a certification exam to streamline everyone. But when we were ready to do the exams, nurses decided to stay by themselves separately. So the society became NZBDP from NZBNP. From then on, it became purely for dialysis technicians, then become Physiology Society. Just to give you a bit of background, any health workforce should have these key pillars to be sustainable for long term and to be recognizable as well. So professional society has to be established. There should be a registration board that manages their APC, CPD, etc. And a good qualification that is under an university or a tertiary organization, of course you are linked to a union who support your professional development and your rights, etc. And prior to 2000, you can imagine, other than union, the rest of them were not well established. So there was hospital-based training, there was no society. After around 2011, this was the inaugural symposium we had. That's the first time we had one of its kind in New Zealand, and that's kick-started our annual events, which is continuing until now. Then we were able to establish a qualification through MIT and subsequently to AUT, which is currently up and running. And then we have looked at which group will be the appropriate group to align ourselves to. Initially, we had a lot of negotiation with anesthetic technicians group to buddy, because we were called technician then. And then we have found ourselves under physiology workforce, where there were already few other physiology workforces like cardiac, respiratory, sleep, neurophys, exercise. And as part of merging here, our title has been changed from technician to physiologist. And then in the year 2018, we were able to extend our arm and bring Australian counterparts to join us. That's when NZBDP became NZASRDP. This is where we are now, and there are a lot of Ministry of Health-led, allied health, technical and scientific workforce-related career progression and pathways. I think rest of today's session will capture how to move forward in terms of advanced practice. How do we move ourselves in career progression forward? Over to the rest of the team. Srini.
Thank you, Fred. And that was really very insightful for all the new staff, as well as all those who have been here like us. We kind of forgotten a lot of things. So it's good to get a refresher like that. Thank you. So going on to the, what I'll do, I'll try to make this as interactive as possible. I'll start with a question, and if you have any doubts, please ask for the mic and ask a question to the panelist. My first question I'll start off is to Balaji. So we see a lot of students, current as well as former students, who've done the course, the renal physiology course in MIT as well as AUT. I would like to hear from you the kind of work that you do behind the scenes to make this course possible on a regular basis, as well as when you switch from one organization to another. How much work have you put in?
Can you hear me? Yeah. I would say, as Frederick said, New Zealand were very reliant on overseas qualified physiologist recruitment, because we never had any training program in New Zealand other than those few people were trained in those days when dialysis was initiated. As Paul said, when he started, there was about a handful of physiologists working in the unit, and predominantly nursing colleagues more, and few physiologists. And we wanted to, once the society was established, and one of the initial work, as Frederick mentioned, was to get everybody to the same level, because people come from overseas in different qualifications. Some has done postgrad, some has done bachelor's, and then we wanted to adapt the Burnett exam, and everyone has to sit for the exam so that everyone is even Steven in New Zealand. So then we went out to many universities in those days. We looked at Unitech, we looked at MIT, we looked at AUT, but our numbers were very small for the university to make anything out of us by running the program. That was one of the greatest difficulty. So we tried and tried, we failed, and then eventually we had to come up with a program nationally, and that was run in 2008 as a pilot program, and it was managed by the society.
and then it was monitored by National Renal Advisory Board. There was a renal person and who was a monitor for the program. And then the model was a trainee model. So in order to get a trainee model, you need to have funding needs to be approved, and you don't likely to get anything out of the trainee for a period of time. So anyway, with great difficulty, somehow we started in Auckland, and then after that in 2010, counties joined as well. So counties in Auckland hired trainees, 2 of them, and then eventually they got trained. After a year, they had to sit for the exams, and they signed off all the competencies and everything, and then they kind of considered us qualified. They get a certification from the society, and that was the structure at the time. And again, the training model were not very attractive to the organization, so they are happy to employ someone qualified so that initial period of orientation is given to them, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, and then after that he will be taking the workload. So they're interested in that rather than wanting to continue the training model. So again, we looked around, and then in 2012, we got the breakthrough. Of course, I would say the same university we approached, institutions we approached 10 years ago, nothing happened, and door was open for us at MIT. So it took about 1.5 to 2 years to work with the project team at the MIT, and then me and Frederick and one other colleague were part of that whole, developing the whole curriculum and everything, assessments and everything. And then in 2014, we got NZQA approval, and we started to take the first cohort of students. And they were prepared because they have to come up with different programs which could help New Zealanders. And they were likely to succeed in getting funding. So that was one of the reasons why we got accepted. It was basically a timing. So basically what we did is we never lost hope, and we were kept knocking the door continuously. And then one day the door meant to open. It was meant to open for us in 2012, and the first cohort of students have graduated. And all the students, we kind of picked the numbers because we know how many of them will likely to be getting into employment after they complete the qualification. We don't want to take 100 of them. We know how many needed on the ground. So we kind of kept the numbers, and university was happy for that. We kind of took about 10 to 15 students. And all the students who graduated, we run about 3 cohorts with MIT, and all of them got employment immediately because there was an increase in patient growth and needed a workforce, and they were ready. And again, there's a new student. You don't need to pay 20 or 30K more for the service if you employ someone from overseas. They'd rather have new grad stepping into those who are prepared in New Zealand, qualified in New Zealand. So we stopped recruiting people from overseas, and we started becoming more self-sufficient in New Zealand. And then 2018, there was a big structured review from the whole education, and all the polytechnics being amalgamated into one umbrella. So a lot of qualification, which just a qualification never led to any employment, were scrapped from Ministry of Education. So eventually the whole team has changed. No one is there to run the program for us, and we were heavily involved because there are some generic papers of which university was helping us, but there are specialty papers, 6 of them. We run them, all the papers, including the placement and everything. And then again, we tried Otago, because they were running some clinical physiology program. And we approached, by then the COVID came, and there was a big pause for a period of time. And again, we got into AUT, and then we shift the program from MIT to AUT. And that we run about 3 of the program at MIT so far. And all of the students, again, we kept the numbers minimum. And all of them are, as soon as they finish, they get their employment in New Zealand. So there was a period of time we recruited people from overseas. It's a good mix of experience and newbies coming in, which was helpful to the service as well. So there was a lot of struggle because you're being a smaller group and you need to convince, you need to form an ally with, work out the strategy, and then you navigate yourself and try to see who can help you and try to do what you can. And again, the time, we need to be patient, we need to wait. Yeah.
And we are very lucky to have Balaji and Frederick still doing the hard work for us.
Just to add, the reason we went to Otago because other physiology courses were under Otago. So we were trying ourselves to align so where the numbers could go more, because from university point of view, it's not business viable. For them, it's a business. If they need to have minimum 50 students to make a course profitable for them. And sometimes our courses were subsidized by Health Workforce New Zealand, where they tend to support these small groups or the courses that need to happen, but it's not business viable. Yeah.
Thank you, Fred. Moving on from education, could you just brief on the advancements that's happening in the field of nephrology in the New Zealand, Australia, as well as the wider Pacific area, and what are the job opportunities that could arise from that?
I know we quite often see this as not many opportunities for physiologists, but there are three major areas you can advance yourself as a career. One is education and training, other one is your specialist role, the third one is your leadership roles. So the leadership pathway will take you to your manager type positions. That starts from your unit coordinator to team leader. And any roles above your operations manager or service manager, you need a health background. Doesn't need to be but you will lose your clinical touch though. You'll become a manager, you're not going to do hands-on clinical. And specialist in your own field, education and training, it could be academic or in the organization. So these are three broad pathways that you can look at. The additional one more is your research area, where you can actually go into any form of research coordination. Balaji has showcased it. There are two other staff in Kantis Manukau who have done their clinical trial coordinator roles, and I'm currently doing a xenotransplant research coordination. So these opportunities, you have to look for it, you have to go into it. It doesn't mean that they will advertise for a physiologist only position. There are some positions when you go into leadership, particularly manager roles, you are manager with health background. That doesn't require any profession attached to it. So at that point, you have to look for it. You need to move. They don't ask for a physiologist there. Your health background, your health knowledge will set the scene. That is just to give you a bit of broad overview. And in the field of CKD in general, now there is more medications coming in terms of SGLT2 inhibitors and few other pharmacogenomics exercise going on in the field of research, where they will look at the genetic sequencing of people, and there will be a database eventually coming under Ministry of Health. Every individual's gene sequencing is actually coded and recorded, and there will be targeted specific pharmacogenomics type treatments coming. So that's one in the field of CKD. And I'm involved in the field of xenotransplant, where we are looking at gene-edited, gene-modified pig kidneys going into human. That's happening here. Gene-modified pig hearts will be done in Germany at this stage. There is trials already done among baboons. There are good validated data available. And we are looking at in 1 to 2 years, human trials happening in New Zealand and in Australia. In Australia, Westmead Center is already doing baboon trial. So because of the existing validation, and the human trial will start very soon. Until 2 years ago, or when I presented last year in the conference, it was FDA was doing xenotransplant as an extraordinary circumstance situation. That means people failed all options, and then they will get into this. But Few months ago, FDA approved xenokidney transplant as a clinical trial to start with specific criteria. That means people will be enrolled into the program. Those who are on maintenance chronic dialysis will get into this, and they'll be monitored. So it becomes a proper clinical trial from extraordinary circumstance attempt, where they had pre-approval done both to the facility, which is growing the pig, also to the center who are doing transplant, and they were doing it on no other option scenario. From there, we have already moved into clinical trial situation. So this will fast track very quickly. In New Zealand, we don't have much expertise on gene editing and cloning, so we are getting that from overseas, from Germany and China. They come and do those. And we already have first form of gene-edited pigs that's coming out of Invercargill pig facility. So these are not only for organs, also for stem cell-related treatments. So this will become a product on the biotech category, same as your medicine. It'll become a biotech category of products available in future. I think I'll stop here. Give it for others.
Thank you. Yeah. So when you speak about career development, there's a lot of times we hear the two terms, career progression and career framework. So I would like to ask Rajiv, with his knowledge of the MECA, as well as his leadership role, what is the difference between career framework and career progression?
All right. Career framework is actually structured given by your employer, because they set the framework, and then for us, how you progress individually. So when we progress from one level to another level is career progression. What they provide to us is a framework. That's a simple definition.
So to access this career progression, what is the staff, as a staff member who is on level 7, what would they need to do?
Okay, those who are joined after 2022, you have seen a interim career framework. It's also called GAP, GEPP. So you must have seen in your employer, in my HR website, that how you can progress, what's your level, and how to go from 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. Now those 9 and 10 is become recognition step, 8 is become additional progression. So if you're in step 7, going to step 8 is just the normal appraisal. You don't need to set an extra objective, but yes, you need to fulfill your expected level of practice. Also, if manager is giving you some task which you would like to do, and some little bit of a personal interest as well, that you got some interest in vascular access, or you got interest in career progression, not in a clinical area, maybe an education side, you're taking a course or doing a postgrad or anything. So if you are taking any of these objectives, that will automatically take you to step 8. You don't need to have spend a lot more time for your setting your objective and doing the difficult task. However, when you're on step 8 and you have spent a year time on step 8, you can start going on recognition step at any time. You don't need to wait for your appraisal. So suppose you have already spent your 12 months on step 8, you can go to manager and you can, just talk that you have interest in going to the recognition step. Now there are expectations. So if you have looked up in 2023, when we got the pay equity and we got an interim career framework, you can see that there is an expectation for a recognition step. So there's expectation that you will be spending some time on research, or if you're taking level 9 qualification, or TDT, Maori. The cultural thing is, any objective you set, there are some cultural aspect of it. So you have to set minimum 2 objectives, minimum 2, and get a time of 12 months. Now, there was a time before 2023 that you could get some retrospective objective done. Henceforth, from 2023, we are not taking, like manager is not, or MECA is not implying for a retrospective. So you have to start work from the day take you to 12 months to complete your objective, and then you can go to recognition step. Now, going to recognition step is up to manager as well, because there's some service requirement and service needs as well. Not everybody will go to recognition step. If you have a smaller center, suppose if you are not doing anything extraordinary, manager may not offer you for recognition step. So it's an advantage for the bigger center. Anything you want to add?
Is there any questions regarding that from the audience? You can think about it, note it down. We can always come back asking questions. Yeah, wait, there's a question. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Hi. So you said something about stem cell and FDA. Can you repeat that? What is it?
No, I said xenokidney transplant research. FDA is approved to conduct clinical trial.
Yeah,
any clinical trial need to be FDA approved. They should allow it to happen. So it is on that category now, which was not until last year.
Yeah. That part I got it. And you mentioned something about stem cells.
Because the gene-edited pigs cells will be also used for therapeutic purposes. So stem cell research advancement also will become part of treatment category in different areas. That includes Alzheimer's and few other conditions.
I mean, where I got little sidetracked or I got confused is that when you said something, stem cell has been also approved or something with the FDA.
Stem cell advancements are happening. The FDA approval is for xenokidney transplant.
Okay. Thank you.
So let's go overseas with this question. Usually, when Christian is on the stage, the questions are about career opportunities in Australia. What I would like to ask Christian is the challenges you're facing, not having a national registration body in Australia, and to manage the workforce in one particular city without opportunities at the moment in other areas of Australia.
Thanks, Srini. It's a good question and there's lots of answers. It is quite challenging being a particularly small workforce in a particularly big country. I think probably, and in my experience, the major issue that we face because of that is lack of understanding. Despite the fact that I have been for the past 10 years standing up at almost every RSA conference, local education, every chance I get, banging on about physiologists and what we do and how we do it and our workforce structures and education and training. I get countless emails from people saying, hey, I want to train some technicians. How do I do that? So I think there's a little bit of a lack of understanding of our knowledge, our skills, our qualifications, our positioning in the workforce. And I think that that's probably our most challenging thing. Accompanied with the fact that being in Australia, we have different legislation in different states. So whilst you guys here have the ability to have some blanket rules across everything that happens, in Australia, if we wanted to have physiologists working in a different state, there's different drugs and poisons legislation, there's different rules that we have to apply. Now, obviously, most of them are quite similar, but if I was to help a unit, say in New South Wales, engage physiologists, we would have to go and look at their drugs and poisons scheduling and legislation and act and regulations to make sure that our physiologists were covered to give medications in that state. So there are additional layered challenges as well as people not having a good understanding. I think the traditional term of technician is still what people think about when they think about us. And obviously we've come a really long way since joining here about what was it, 7 or 8 years ago now. Because of all the groundwork that was put in New Zealand, we had the advantage of being able to just join into that, and we've been very lucky that we haven't had to start from scratch. But the understanding and the knowledge across Australia probably is lagging a little bit. It's really interesting when I talk to colleagues who have experience in nursing, or allied health colleagues who have experience in New Zealand, they're like, well, why don't people over here understand this profession? And I think it's just because we are so small. It's very difficult to get the information to a wider population unless or until they need a workforce. And that's sort of when I get contacted, I respond with, actually, it's not a 6-week training program and you've got someone who can provide dialysis with quality care. This is how we run it. This is what we do. Would you like to have further conversation? My workplace has always been very, very supportive with me talking to other places, sharing our policy and procedures, sharing our structures. But we often get people coming back with, oh, that sounds a little bit hard, that sounds a bit challenging, it's going to take a little bit long, or sometimes I don't even get a response at all when they realise that it is going to be a little bit more challenging than me handing them a 6-week education program that means that they then have someone that can do dialysis. So I think we do have some challenges. We are a little bit behind. We don't have a nationally recognised registration body, so for our purposes, NZASRDP do our registration, CPD auditing, all of that sort of work. There is some work having gone towards joining some of the other clinical physiology professions in Australia, but that is a big piece of work that has been ongoing again for about 10 years. The clinical physiologist professions in Australia did do very similar to what CPRB has done in New Zealand. In fact, they were advised by CPRB and they have adopted a very similar structure. But because they're very new, they were reluctant to take on new professions initially or very quickly because they would have had to change their society or their rules and their constitution. So they wanted to get all of their work settled first. And I know they're still in the process of bedding down all of their CPD and audit requirements. So they're a little bit behind CPRB as well. So with regards to regulation and governance, we are a little bit behind in Australia, but we are grateful that we have been able to join into what already has been built, and hopefully we will be able to continue moving forward. And the further we get with our regulation and having all of our standards in place, hopefully the more we are recognised and the more we will be recognised by other places in the country and we can get out there. We don't have a lot of training programs or a lot of qualifications, so it's a little bit of a chicken or egg type scenario. If we put people through a qualification and there aren't jobs, well, that's a waste of everyone's time. But if we have the jobs and we don't have the staff, then those jobs just won't continue to exist. So it's a bit of a delicate balance of how we continue to progress and move forwards.
Thank you. Another person who had similar or even more challenges in his career and had come out fighting is Shaiju. Shaiju, you moved from Auckland, which is the biggest group of clinical physiologists, to regional center like Hawke's Bay on your own as the first person to be there and the first service to acknowledge this clinical physiologist workforce other than Auckland and Christchurch. What were your challenges in establishing yourself as well as your journey towards becoming the renal manager?
Thanks, Rini. I just wanted to borrow what Frederick initially started with. You need to look for opportunities rather than waiting for opportunities. So I came to New Zealand in 2004 and was working under Paul. I was great opportunities, and if some of you might remember, a few years ago, one of our evening symposium, Srijit, one of my colleague, who presented about his designated role, how it was established. And one of his slide was quite interesting, which says, a physiologist starts as a physiologist and retire as a physiologist. And I didn't want to be one of those person. And after working in Auckland for around 4 years, and I was looking for some changes. And I wanted to progress in career, but at that point we have a lot of physiologists in Auckland. I knew that it'll be a little bit challenging in terms of career progression because people around me are more experienced, skilled, probably better than me as well. So I had to think outside the box and look at the regional center. Again, the idea came just like that, and I started emailing managers, and some of the managers were not even aware of this workforce. But somehow I managed to get a response from one manager, and I started clinging on to that response and keep sending emails and emails and emails. Then finally I got a email saying that, why don't you come for a chat? Again, that was the beginning in 2000, around towards Christmas time in 2007. Then I went for a chat and looked at it. When I landed in Napier and I was going in a taxi to hospital, I couldn't see any people, only cattle around both sides of the road. And so, in fact, somebody told me that you won't see human there, only cattle there. But I went for a test drive. I liked it, but I was in double mind. And even my close friend said, don't go for it. You will struggle. But again, I thought I will take that risk. And I had a little bit of hope in my mind that even if I come back, Paul will take me back. I'm not sure whether Paul was thinking that way. But again, it was a good testing, and I went there, and I had a casual chat with the manager, and I had to explain what the workforce can do for it. And one thing that stuck with that manager was plasma exchange. Because at that point, plasma exchange was not able to deliver in Hawke's Bay. Patients were traveling to Wellington and Palmy. So I cling on to that point. I said, I can do it. So that was a selling point, actually. So since then, after a month, they like how I worked. I didn't do any magic. Then my manager asked me, can you get one of your friend? Then I tried to convince Srijit. He followed me. But it took 10 years, just over 10 years to recruit a third physiologist. It took 10 years. We both worked there. In those 10 years, we had to prove ourselves. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. But we were getting good respect from the my other workforce and colleagues as well. But they were not willing to employ more physiologists. Then another manager came over. In between, I ended up doing a lot of other roles, but nothing was paid or anything. So whenever any chances, anything, can you do this? I never said no. And that was one thing I wanted to share with you all. When the opportunities come in, take it. There may be no dollar value attached to it, but take it. But that will equip you for the future if anything comes up. Nobody is going to buy something new in the market. They wanted to test you, right? When you buy a phone, you will go through it, review it. Same thing it applies to professional growth as well. Nobody's going to employ you as a leader straight away unless you have a proven capability. So I'm not saying that I'm great in leadership or anything, but the things came to me as an opportunities. I didn't say no to it. So that's the one thing I want you to take it. As Frederick mentioned, always say there's no less opportunities for physiologists. There are opportunities. You need to look for it. And when that comes, it won't be easy. The road won't be easy, I can tell you. The challenges is an opportunity. It always opens an opportunity. So take it and cherish it, enjoy it, then you will get the dividend out of it. And me being the chair of the board, again, all the hard work all the senior people did in the past, we actually getting the benefit out of it. So the journey is not, it's not about the destination, it's the journey itself, right? We always say that. And again, when, even if it is an acting role, even if there is no money attached to it, just take it. Even if there's an opportunity to do a project, a small project, It might not be very attractive to many people, but grab that, pick it up, and prove that you are capable of doing it. Be visible, and it's easy to say no. It's very easy to say no, especially in this current environment, with no enough resources and stuff. Your challenge, and when you ask me about the challenges, that's the biggest challenge. Our mindset is the biggest challenge, I think, for our workforce. I'm not being critical on anybody. Don't read me wrong. This is my personal experience, and when you have to prove your own skills and workforce itself to other colleagues and other workforce within the organization, it's up to you how you wanted to demonstrate and display your workforce. That is something I learned, and yeah, say no. Don't say no to the opportunities.
Thank you. Before I open it up to the questions, Frederick would like to update on the activities in the Pacific.
Just on the equity in health, we know that Pacific Health plays an important role in making sure their outcomes are there on and they get accessible to health. And in renal particular, it's not just the Pacific people here and the Pacific countries around us, because any impact there, they will land here, or the treatment health impact continues here. So I had experience of establishing the kidney dialysis centers in the Pacific Islands. Again, it came as an opportunity for a charity organization to do some voluntary work. And I didn't say no, and I went for it and stayed in a new country, looking at their new Ministry of Health regulation and jurisdiction. Make sure you customize to the local requirement. I can't go there to another country and say, this is the way you do it in New Zealand, do you want to do it? We have to do it in their way. And we have to customize it so that it's long-term sustainable for their local structure. So initiated from Fiji all the way up to 4 countries. Now they have dialysis centers established. Now they have at least 200 to 250 patients on dialysis in their own country. But when I landed here, Paul might watch for this, we had people who land here because there is no treatment in their country. Either they will die, or if the insurance funds it, they will fly here, or they come as a visitor, they end up in your ED. And so it's important, both in CKD and providing dialysis care, those countries are supported. They are our neighboring countries, they are developing countries, they have limited resources, and there are people on a regular basis do come and live here. So the health impact there is also going to make an health impact here. As we speak, there are 200 to 250 patients on dialysis in 4 countries. There is established nephrology training program up and running. There is a nephrology society established for the Pacific. There is localized dialysis technician training course. There is a credentialing program for nurses. Actually, they are ahead than New Zealand and Australia. The nurses working in Fiji have to be dialysis credentialed, and they ask for assistance to come and run the credentialing program. They have to complete it to work in dialysis even though they carry APC. So that's where they are at. And there is NZASRDP supporting them, Australia New Zealand Society of Nephrology. They got a Pacific advisory group that is supporting them between Australia and New Zealand, along with ISN, which is International Society of Nephrology. ISN got a program called Supporting Developing Countries. That means they run a sister center program. They will attach each developing country into one of the developed country center. For example, Samoa is attached to Middlemore, Fiji is attached to Concord, Vanuatu and PNG are attached to another center in Australia. So they will do their exchanges of doctors, nurses, technicians, dietitians, and providing resources and supporting them. So good progress in the Pacific region happening.
Thank you, Fred. Let's open it up. Any questions, please raise your hands and the mic will be provided. You can ask anyone. Any questions? I don't see any hands coming up. Yep. Over there. Gurpreet.
Preet?
Yes.
Yep. Who are willing to volunteer, give your names to me. Yeah. Give your names to me, I'll put you on the booking list. Yeah. You have to be prepared for tropical weather, rain, all the rest of the challenges, including mosquito bites.
With the lack of questions, I just might jump in to reiterate a little bit about what Shaiju and Frederick said. I know, particularly in Australia, because our physiologists are really just located in one place, there's a significant lack of opportunities and career progression, but I don't think it's a case of having to just be in the right place at the right time. If you want to use maybe a sporting analogy, someone doesn't get selected for, I don't know, like the Indian cricket team, Srini, just because someone saw them play well on a day. They put in all the training, they did the work, they did what had to be done before that, and then they were in the right place at the right time. So taking opportunities and putting your hand up and doing those things, but I think also making your intentions clear. So we all know that there are a lot of people that want to come to work, do their job well, and go home, and they don't want to take on additional responsibilities, and that's absolutely fine. We really need those people, but there are other people that do want some career progression. Speak to your manager, tell them what you want, tell them that you're interested in doing something else, ask for opportunities, ask them what you should do to get those opportunities, because if they don't know what your intentions are and what you want to be doing, then they can't help you. But they might have a project or something that you can help on, and then next time when there's a position available or something that they need someone to do, well, I asked that person, well, that person came to me last time and said they wanted to do it. So then you'll be forefront in their mind. Putting your hands up for those things and telling people what your intentions are is really important, I think.
Thank you. I would like to ask Balaji the next question. Continuous professional development, or CPD. How can our members help themselves to more educational material, educational opportunities?
There's a lot of Facebook out there, reels, and it's educational, of course. I learned a lot of leadership in that. There's Facebook reels, and you can listen to Obama speaks in the crowd, and they ask a funny question and trying to mock him, and the way he respond with wisdom. There are things that you can learn, a lot of learning. It automatically happens. In terms of specific learning, you want to talk about renal-related learning. Of course, these are the forums that we mainly run. That's the role of a society, and do attend that every year. And like us, there are other groups are doing. Renal Society of Australasia is doing regular conferences here as well as in Australia as well, so you can attend those. And so many webinars, every company has opened up webinars, free webinars out there, and you need to commit to your time to learn. We do have a society, have a journal club, and the subcommittee which started a webinar this year. So there is plenty explosion out there for learning, for sure. But you need to find the time to do it on a regular basis, not only do it at the time of your portfolio submission. It's too late. So you need to do it try to make it as a habit of learning. Of course, you all learn many things, other things, but the specific renal. Plus, we do have a lot of regional study days and hospital e-learning platform. There's many out there. And if you want interested to equip yourself for future in terms of career progression, you can go to university, and depends on what type of pathway you want to choose. You want to be, are you good at manager, or you good at managing people, then you would choose something in the management line and keep yourself to postgrad and master qualification. If you are good at education, and try to do some clinical education diplomas and masters or whatever you want. And if you're passionate about research and things, and you can do it as well. So it's up to you to equip yourself And don't think that there's nothing out there at the moment. So if you want to have those specialist advanced practitioner role, to get that into the Mecca, it wasn't there about, I would say, maybe 6 years ago. The previous Mecca, we never had any of those. So since we've been here, last 20 years nearly, 18 years, there was nothing there in the Mecca itself. So that's great to see. You're going to be remunerated. You are acknowledged that there's going to be a specialist role. There's going to be a practitioner role coming in the Mecca side of things, which would attract you. Career progression comes with, your responsibility. You are a person that you are happy to take responsibility and you wanted to contribute in a different way rather than repeating the same thing. And you find that is a progress for you. But of course, it will be attached to a pay check as well, comes along with that. So that is there. And as a society, we took nearly 20 years to when we first started and where we are now, to have all the structure in place in terms of society, professional development, registration, APC, complaint process, ongoing education, subcommittee, and we have everything self-sufficient. So we built the ground floor. We are trying to build the first floor now. That's our focus has been in last 2 years to work towards the specialist role. To create a specialist role, the society needs to come up with a pathway. So to have a pathway, we need to pick the papers. So skill, knowledge, and qualification needed to function at the specialist level. So what other papers are going to be useful in the renal space that you need to study? So we need to come up with a program, which we already started a conversation with university, and we wanted to see which school we can go and attach to. There are different schools in the university. We need to get ourselves attached to. Then we come up with a pathway from the society point of view that will guide you. So now you have in the union contract, those roles are there. Number 2 is society has got a pathway. Number 3 is the qualification out there from the university. Last one is to have that role created within the service. If the role is not created within the service, if they don't have buy-in, how they traditionally run those roles with a different professional group, that needs to be challenged, and we need to create the structure, roles within service. Then if you keep yourself already out there, you can apply, you can walk into that role. So that's the work we've been doing, and it's going to take some time because it's all you can create, the pathway, you can create qualification, you can have that in your union contract. Nothing will happen unless service come up with the structure. So you need to talk to those service managers and involve allied health into that space and create equal opportunity for physiologists so that we can have specialists and advanced practitioner role. So I hope that it's not very far. I'm a very positive person, and I'm looking at probably within 5 years we can reach that. Yeah.
Thank you, Balaji.
And also, when it comes to leadership, you don't need to be in a designated role to be a leader. Everybody is a leader. So that's an important thing. So we always, when it comes to leadership and management, of course, you need to have that title. But leadership is something is built in. Everybody is a leader. So don't just think that, okay, I will wait for my appointment order to become a leader. Don't wait for it. That is another thing I just wanted to share as well.
Thank you. Any questions?
My question is towards the entire panel. Anyone can answer. It's just a clarification. As Balaji has explained the career progression of specialist roles and all those things. My question is is there any tool used by the people in the managerial level to create a new physiologist, clinical physiologist post? Let's say the patient number is increasing by 30% or a number, like for 30 patient increase, there should be one physiologist. Is it something, a recommendation from the CPRB, or how it works?
Yeah, I think we always used to work with, report to National Renal Advisory Board, and that advocacy group for renal, advisory group for renal, which has got managers and us as part of that, and RSA representation, and the national nurses, renal nurses representation there. Physicians are there as a part of the group. So they all work what are the pressing issue for renal. And then they provide advice. That's the group can provide advice, expert advice, to the minister. So that minister can understand and minister can allocate funding or whatever, workforce, whatever needed, money, or then you can use it for your expansion of the service. And that was there for many years, and that's the best place to be, to speak from the topmost level to influence down to all the services in New Zealand. That's how we kind of started expanding from one to many places like Hawke's Bay and Dunedin, and Invercargill is also someone there. So we are trying. The society also talking to different services and promoting a workforce, how Kristen has said. She's going out there to other places to promote. In terms of that, National Renal Advisory Board got disestablished because now they opened up a new national clinical network, which Shaiji is part of, and you also listened to the presentation this morning. They are also making that. They are looking at model of care, and they are making that how many physiologists needs to be there in terms of ratio with number of patients. So they are working that, and again, they are also similar. I don't know how much power they have in terms of making the service to implement that, or it's just a recommendation or a guideline. So if it's a recommendation or a guideline, you can use it if you want to, right, as a service. But we need to make a policy change. It should come from the Ministry of Health. It should come from Health New Zealand to make it as a policy that every service should have a dietitian, so many dietitians, so many, forget about only us, okay? So many dietitians needed, so many social worker needed, psychologists needed in the renal model of care. So every service should have X amount of different allied health, nurses, and everyone should be there. So that work is been happening, but will be implemented probably in the near future across all New Zealand. Yeah, that answered your question?
That work is actually happening at a bit of a higher level as well, because the RSA has been very active in that space. They, a couple of years back at the RSA conference, announced that they were going to start what they called at the time a workforce task force, which I'm involved in, and I can't remember what they changed the name to, but it's something like that. And they have positioned themselves as the peak renal body across Australia and New Zealand to make some recommendations about, they've gone down the pathway of patient acuity and patient care needs first, because once the most dialysis units don't base care. New Zealand is a little bit better than Australia at doing it, but they don't base care on the care that the patients need. It's arbitrary. So to assess patient acuity first, so that then they can make recommendations around hours of care, allied health services, those sorts of things. So you need the data there first to then be able to make the recommendations from that. So that work is ongoing as well.
Just to add on your tools, you were asking, in some organizations they use CCDM or trend care as working out the workload. in dialysis, only in some places it's customized, but it counts for dialysis workforce as a whole, which is nurses or physiologists. And then how many should be there is a little tricky, but they can come up with the arbitrary percentage, but it's an interchangeable workforce. You know, if there is a shortage of a nurse, a physiologist will be called in for a shift. So it's an interchangeable role to a certain degree. So that makes it tricky to come up with the definitive number than overarching. I think Middlemore got a formula of X number of nurses to X number of physiologists. So that's at service level. We don't be prescriptive at national level, but there'll be an overall recommendation on dialysis workforce, which includes nurses and physiologists. I think coming down to percentage is hard. I think all the workload tools are for acuity of patient and what ratio should be recommended, and based on patient growth, how many extra staff are needed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, just for a clarification, your question is about your unit level, right? Yep. So you're talking if your patient number is growing, right? So what's supposed to be the number like? Do you want an extra physiologist? Do you want an extra nurse? Am I right? This is what you want to know. Based on the numbers, yes. So if in your unit, suppose numbers are growing, and you yourself can identify with your manager that, look, you know, is getting a stressful, workload is more, having a fatigue issues, all those things, if you start talking to your manager, I think they will be able to discuss to increase the FTE. Okay, now who will be appointed, whether it is a physiologist or nurse, depending on the situation, because given the scenario right now, new grad has to be taken first. Physiologists, those who were traditionally recruited from overseas, we are not looking to hire them at this moment. So it all depends on case-to-case basis, unit-to-unit basis.
We got one question from Damu. I think that's probably the time we got.
Well, this is not really a question from me. This is for everyone actually to think. So if we see our colleague professions, nursing, so they have healthcare assistant. So it's really a thought actually. So since they have like healthcare assistants, sometimes like if they are working in the workforce, so nurses who are working, if the person is like having an opportunity or already existing skills, etc., they will encourage to go into the studying the nursing. In a similar fashion, so why can't you think about physiology assistant, something like that?
I was meant to cover this. It's already in our pipeline.
Okay.
There will be a physiology assistant or a technician role as part of the career pathway, will be introduced as a profession. This work in progress or discussions are there at the moment, because currently it defaults to healthcare assistant who report to a nursing workforce. So the renal area has that space. Some units got water technician in Australia as well, and even in New Zealand, and some have healthcare assistant who are doing the dialysis assistant role. That could be streamlined. Once they become a dialysis technician or assistant, they will come under our society. That will become part of our workforce.
Yes. And further to that, and this role can be not necessarily be specific to only our renal workforce. This can be brought up even in the CPRB as well. It can be like a physiology assistant, and this can be like a generic and at the same time specific to particular across the board, you know.
There is a cardiac technician already there who function under cardiac physiologists. They are the only workforce currently have that, and we have potential.
And also, National Renal Network is currently looking at the workforce model, whether we should have a non-registered workforce to be working as part of the addressing the workforce shortage, especially in renal. But to answer your question, physiology assistant, rather than in that category, what we have is allied health assistants, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and as Frederick mentioned, at the moment what we have is cardiology technicians. We don't have a technician category in any other physiology discipline. But National Renal Network is currently looking at the workforce model to look at creating that layer. And again, we don't have a implementation power. We only have a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that will be something to look at, address the workforce shortage.
And also this kind of role is like maybe efficiently useful in a country like Australia to start with, because say for example in remote area, not many nurses or like workforce not interested to go and work. So in that case, we have a clinical physiology assistants, and it's more economical and efficient. And if you perform that, you are able to do with less financial input, then probably they may think about to open the new roles and the new openings, you know.
That's true. We
Yeah.
do just have to be very careful how it gets structured so that we don't muddy the waters between professions. Obviously, you have very clear professional roles and professional lines here in Australia, because we have moved to even just the title of renal physiologist quite recently. We get called technicians fairly interchangeably. So we do have to be very careful how that's structured, and very, very clear lines about how that would work, particularly. I mean, it might be a little easier here, but particularly in Australia.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I think let's wrap up. We have reached the time where we need to move to the next event. It's been a privilege to have you all in the panel, and picking your brain was really great fun. Thank you.
Thank you to our panel for the engaging discussion. I now kindly invite Rufus to present the gift to Fred. Rufus is coming. I invite Hussein to present gift to Rajiv. Hussein is not here. Oh. Okay. I invite Amani to present gift to Rajiv.
Wellness, so that he can Sujata feel better. No, Kristen. Srini.
Amin. Okay. I invite Sujata to present gift to Balaji. I now invite Amin to present gift to Kristen. Amin. I now invite Mary He to gift Saiju. I kindly invite Debbie to present gift to Srini. Before we conclude our last session, I welcome Catherine Johnson from Bantap, one of our supplementary sponsors, to present the Outstanding Achievement Award.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine. I'm from the HD team Vantive. You may know us previously as Baxter. It's my pleasure to join you today. I've really enjoyed the opportunity, and I hope you have as well. You've come together, you've shared your knowledge, you've exchanged ideas, and I hope you've gained some new insights to take back to your practice. One concept that I'm going to take on board is Joe Sinclair's rest ethic. I'm definitely into that, and for that I would probably walk my dogs or do some gardening. So I hope you have all taken some time to think about how you can rejuvenate yourselves outside of your work, because I know you all work very hard in what you do. Today I have the honour of announcing the winner of the 2025 Outstanding Achievement Award. I'd like to begin by extending my sincere thanks to Shaiju, and I did not say no. I would not say no to Shaiju, and the other board members for inviting me to be part of the judging panel. I'd like to acknowledge my fellow judges. Some of them have bailed on us, but they were here today. Jean Patman from New Zealand Medical Indemnity Insurance. Doctor, I've since found out, Alia Mahhoub from GSK, and the lovely Karen Prescott from Swan Analytical. As judges, we'd like to thank the members who actually took the time to nominate their colleagues. We have a nomination system in my workplace for recognising achievement, and it actually does take time to sit down, especially when you're so busy, to write down your thoughts in a clear and concise way. And I think that some of you struggled with the word limit of 300 words. You've obviously had so much to say about your wonderful colleagues. So thank you for recognising their achievements. There were 7 nominations, and I do encourage you to, in the year between now and your next meeting, to think really carefully about nominating your colleagues, because I know you will work very hard, but it's very good to do that. The Outstanding Achievement Award is assessed across 6 domains, and they are patient care and advocacy, contribution to the profession, or you guys can read, you don't need me to read that out. And this year's award recipient does exemplify all of these qualities. The judging panel was very impressed by the calibre of all of the nominees, and collectively these nominees did demonstrate exceptional commitment to patient advocacy, innovation and professional excellence. The judges were given the nominees, and we judged them independently of each other, and as the lead judge I collated, so nobody knew what anybody else was thinking or saying, so it is a completely independent process. 3 nominees emerged as standout candidates for their direct and measurable impact, on patient outcomes, their leadership within the teams, and their sustained contribution to the wider renal committee. However, there can only be one winner. This person was nominated for their outstanding vascular access management skills, which have led to clear improvements in patient outcomes. This person plays an integral role in conducting audits and supporting staff assessments for cannulation. Their ability to demonstrate crisis management skills that ensured continuity of care in very challenging circumstances, and their leadership during a period of change was exemplary. Respected by their colleagues and patients alike, this individual embodies professionalism, compassion and excellence in their practice. And it is with great pleasure that I announce the recipient of the Outstanding Achievement Award for 2025, Anto Jose from Tota Ora Dialysis. And that is the best clap I've heard all day. Where's Anto? Not here? Oh, that's so disappointing. He has to go to work. Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. We'll let them off. Oh, okay. There you go.
Thank you, Catherine. That was really nice. I know judging has been really hard, but thank you. Now, after a long day, we can't let you go without acknowledging all the sponsors and stuff. Thank you. So my formal responsibility finishes here. I invite Yardley, he's our conference chairman, and to take over and do the vote of thanks address. Yardley.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we come to the close of this inspiring symposium, it is my great honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee of NZASRDP 2025. First and foremost, I would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all our speakers who are sharing your time, expertise, and insights. Your presentations have been thought-provoking and have added immense value to the symposium. I know it's so hard for everybody to come on a weekday without any money in it involved to come and present here and go. You should really be thankful for them coming here. Thank you so much for all the presenters and key speakers. And also a very special thanks to the sponsors, especially GSK, that's our gold sponsor. And the silver sponsors, NZMII, SWAN, the bronze sponsors, Indus and SCB, the supplementary sponsors, Grace Medicals and Vantive. You know, we have sponsors who have been supporting us every year, especially the SCB, Indus, and NZMI. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting every year. And another thing, without GSK and SWAN coming in this time, we wouldn't be able to do it this perfect. And today morning when I left the house, I prayed. Normally I pray when I leave the house, I pray, make this function, everything go well, smooth, without any problem. But I forgot my specs. And I had to go back again to get my specs. And I was thinking, oh my God, it looks like something is bad going to happen. But fortunately, it's nothing to do with it, and it's all went well. Thank you.